this is all about HOIST and your guys' brand and product, but I want to know about the business. I want to know about the run-up, right? And me being I'm just proudly blue-collar growing up. I have to be because I own it, and it's like that gave – the funny thing is you guys can come from what is one of the most elite schools, right, in Cincinnati. Yep. I get it, but there's probably a couple schools that, honestly, I don't even know the name. There probably is a few of those. But Summit, to all of us regular folks that didn't have the IQ at this level that could test in, it's almost like the kids that were too smart when they tested in at St. X. Oh, we'll go to Summit. I'll just say it, guys. Right? Here we go. Okay? But I think we should all own, because I want to know, because here's what's funny. What I look at, I had a lady on the podcast who runs an enormous solar company who had a pedigree. That is, like, if you look at Summit, Elon, all those, if you just look at that on a resume, that's a good pedigree. So someone operating a business, that person's smart, been around some highly intelligent people. So this lady went to Yale for her undergrad, got her MBA at Georgetown, went to work for private banking on Wall Street, then went and started a VC fund in Silicon Valley. You start looking at pedigree, right? Yeah. But you sit down, and it's like she still had to travel this business path.
Right.
There was no circumventing, cutting the line.
Yeah.
That's what's fascinating to this.
It really is.
Right?
Yeah.
So and I want to get back to that too, about like, hey guys, you got to stand in line, and standing in line. I think as you move up a little bit, it's learning all the little pieces of business, of entrepreneurship, of dealing with personnel, of leadership skills, of self-awareness, of emotional. So in 2001, it was the best idea ever. You were on to something big.
Oh, we thought we were so great.
Yeah. 2001, I mean, honestly, we loved the concept, but it was at that age, you're trying to think of every option possible to avoid working for the man, right? And entrepreneurial seems easy, and man, let's go start our own business. We were young, dumb, and naive at that point, and I don't think, to Kelly's point earlier, I don't think any of us ever thought that 23 years later we'd still be grinding like we're grinding, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It feels like you guys are on the precipice, though.
I think
we believe so.
He and I say that a lot because
Okay.
we've been through, you name it, we've conquered it. Everything in between. This journey's been ups, highs, lows, but lately, it's been. He and I are very excited for what lies ahead. But most notably, it's because this was 23 years ago. This was a concept that was foreign, and where it is today, and you referenced earlier in the conversation, Gatorlight. This trend is now here. And little guys such as us, we don't create trends. The big Pepsi Cokes are the ones that have the ability to embrace trends and create categories. And they've done that for us. And most people would say, man, you scared? No, thank you. And we have all of that work and all of that pioneering of a segment that didn't exist is here now. And I think the future is incredibly bright.
Yeah. So go ahead. I was going to say, we were going to go back to 2001 when you had this idea. Were you guys growing up, were you around entrepreneurs? Were you around business owners?
My dad, I was born a salesman. I had no choice. I enjoy it. But yeah, I'd say my dad was an entrepreneur. He always hustled and found a way to make a buck. And gave me, you spoke to Summit earlier, he gave me opportunities. My mom was probably the steward of that. Mm-hmm. I think it was born within me. Just that I grew up watching my dad hustle and do what it took to rise to where he got to. And I think for me, it's just in the bloodstream.
Yeah, so how much of that, because the point is you guys still have been on this 23-year journey. So being around him maybe created something, maybe it planted a seed, or maybe there was an egg there.
Yeah.
But that seed still had to grow. You have to water it,
yeah,
right? You have to take care of it. And so that's it's like, I make this reference a lot that it doesn't matter where we start out in life, but some of us start, example of a baseball team, some of us start on the team, some don't. And then when you're on the team, some people start in the dugout and don't get to start, and others get that shortstop spot where they get to start at. Yeah. Some people, it feels like they're starting on second base. It's much easier for them to score. And some people are just trying to get in that bat. But the funny thing is, that second baseman still has to know how to play the game, to run the bases, to not get thrown out, right? And so it's funny, and I believe that sometimes it's actually easier to start in the dugout or not be on the team, because the time you get on second base, it's so easy.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so easy. And there's this grit that you're on, but you guys have grit, which I love. So were you around entrepreneurs too, business owners?
Actually, my dad was a lawyer, so I actually saw growing up, he was bringing home stacks of stuff reading, and I was just
Money?
like, that's
Stacks.
not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, contracts. And I was like, oh, he just spent hours reading every night. And I was like, no, thank you. That is not for me. And both my brothers were at entrepreneur mind, and some cousins, uncles, but it was more, I think it's really for me, I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. It just came down to our idea. And so when we first thought of this back in 2000, 2001, it took us 7 years of talking about it before we actually put a little bit of effort towards it. Because we knew absolutely nothing about the beverage industry. I didn't know how a drink made it to a convenience store, to a grocery store. I didn't know how you make one. I mean, this was on the early days of Google, so it's like you couldn't just look up, how do you do this?
Yeah.
And it was at the point where we thought we had a great idea, and every year we would talk about it and just annoy each other almost to the point where we were like, all right, it's time to shut up and do it. And if it works out, we'll figure it out day by day. If it doesn't.
What finally caused that? So you're living your lives, getting jobs, selling stuff, right? And so what finally in 2007 and 8 says, okay, it's time? Was it how you didn't like that life was giving you the rest of the stuff? Was it being employees places? What was it?
Well, I think, as Kelly said, we'd kicked the idea around for a long time, and eventually we got hooked up. If you'll recall, Wild Flavors was out on the way to the airport, and one of us had come up with the concept of, hey, let's call those folks. I understand they help beverages concepts come to life. Let's call them, take a meeting. And we had lunch with a guy by the name of Bob Bloom. Geez, I don't know, Kelly, 2009?
6 or 7 or 8.
Yeah, somewhere in that vicinity. And Bob, it's funny, we had dinner with him not too long ago. Great guy, still here locally. And he told us a little bit about the industry. I think his intent was likely to have scared us off.
Yeah.
Because
Just don't do it.
Quite honestly, that's probably what Kelly and I would do with anyone that would come to us with regards to, we want to start a beverage. But Bob, we had lunch. He said, there's a guy in Chicago. We were not of the ilk to be considered by Wild. At that point, it was merely a concept. And he said, there's a guy out of Chicago by the name of Chris McVicker that you guys should connect with. So again, we said, let's do this. So Chris flew in from Chicago. We had dinner at the Montgomery Inn. And Chris had done a fair amount of beverages along the way. He's, what would you call him, a beverage scientist of sorts?
Pretty much. He knows how to do the production and tasting and everything he knows how to create beverages.
And Chris, I think, probably came in and thought, okay, who are these yahoos? And, let's see what it is. And we sat down and we said, hey, man, we've got a pretty simple premise. We're big advocates of Pedialyte and what it offers by way of hydration. And our goal is, can you make this taste good? And Chris went back to where he goes and, put together a couple different formulations. And at that point, I think once we identified that, yes, you can produce a solution that's viable and make it taste good, then that was kind of, all right, let's go. And 4 of us cobbled together, I think, $10,000 a piece, something in that vicinity. And we ran a small production run. And I think as you think back to that foursome, Kelly's brother had gone to UNC and written a business plan with regards to this concept that served as a blueprint.
So Ben and I and a couple of our other friends talked about this idea because, again, it all stemmed from our buddy being in the NFL. He came back telling us that every team he was on there drinking Pedialyte out of the iconic orange Gatorade tub, and we just couldn't believe it. We were like, what are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, and if you go out and you have too many beers tonight, drink Pedialyte. It works wonders. And us being young and dumb, going out more often than we should have been, we were drinking a lot of Pedialyte, and it did work wonders, but it tasted awful. So that was the whole idea of all of us. We probably went out a little too often as young kids, and hey, it led to a business idea.
Yeah. So the reason why I ask it too is so many people, everyone has the idea. Mm-hmm. I come across so many people, hey, I've got this idea. And the reason why you guys would say, hey, don't start the drink.
Yeah.
The reason why the guy here at Wild Flavors is probably like trying to convince you not, because he knows what's to come.
Yeah. Right.
And what they can't sense is what's inside.
Right.
What's the DNA?
Yep.
How much grit's in there? How much determination?
Right.
And what you guys didn't know, you didn't know what was required. You had no idea the journey and path to come.
No.
As Ben said, we were young. We thought it'd be easy.
Yeah. But I think that I will say, though, that I think the dynamic of, like, Kelly and I have known each other since I went to Summit in 3rd grade and met Kelly for the first time. I think you started earlier. and we've known each other for a long time, and there's not much that he and I haven't done together. We're the best of friends, but there's a dynamic amongst the two of us that works really well together. Whereas I'm impulsive, Kelly is more analytical, right? And he allows me to run, whereas he sits back and says, is he running too fast, too ignorantly, right? And it really works well. So I would say in this world, I don't think that what we've accomplished would have occurred if it weren't for the two of us and the relationship we have and the respect we've got for one another. And I understand my skill set. He understands his. And
did that evolve? Because partnerships are tough. They can be tough.
This one's never been. I mean, obviously, you've got a little bit of a yin and yang where, I'm nuts. And every once in a while, I'll shake him like, come on, man, let's go.
Are you guys trying to tell me you're Warren and Charlie of Cincinnati? Just get along so damn well. We've never had a disagreement.
I don't know that we have. I mean, quite honestly, there's never been much
We
disagreement.
make fun of each other a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you get through
it.
Right. But there's nothing that he couldn't say to me that I haven't heard before from him. And, it's a lot of respect for, I'll shake him sometimes, and then he sometimes has to hold me back. And I think that dynamic is what ultimately has led this thing to get to where it's gotten. And now, mind you, there's been a lot of capital along the way, and nothing's possible without capital.
Isn't that the truth?
But, the grind is there on behalf of the two of us, and we each have a different approach.